Punish it. We must strive for the future and existence of our people and our children. So any further thoughts on the chants or the symbol before we conclude?
Yeah, no, I thought that, better off is the one who stands alone in purity than 1,000 with unmentionable thought. Sometimes, a lot of times, one must stand alone.
And as one may deduce, didn't use the right verb, but as one may have concluded or remembered, my color for the seasonal is white, and then red, then blue, then orange, then black, then purple, then green, then yellow. And one of the things that's meant in there, separated by oneself from the mundanes and their idealized situation, not quite. Well, it's not that we give up everything. It's just that, whether they're of it or not is not what matters.
Absolutely.
Now, I should have brought it up, but definitely in the pictures for the seasonal rite itself, I will have, you'll be able to see my pot, my Polynesian pot, with the candle. And this pot has 8 diamonds, and it has 4, as you've seen, it has 4 diamond shapes. So it has 12 total. So it forms a nice sequence of the year into 12 months. Now, one of the things I've thought to do with all that is I've thought to, I've thought for my 8 seasonals to have different, not just different candles and colors and stuff like that, but to have different candle holders. So to have a set. Yeah. And then, of course, if things go bad, then I'll have my whole set of what I need anyways.
All right.
So temple room, temple building, that would be 3. Something to carry outside. Bedrooms and bathrooms. I don't know. I think that would, be suitable if I had 8 sets of what I needed to sit down with a group of books. Of course, I'm not one of those people with the books in their bathroom. Actually, don't recommend that for multiple reasons.
Right.
And health reasons too, but apparently YouTube probably won't let me go into that, why it's not healthy to take a break to
use their imaginations.
Read there. But so 1 John. Now to give a side note, Isn't the books of John the ones where that you have the mention of the Antichrist? People say all sorts of stuff refers to the Antichrist, but really the Bible doesn't really say too much about it. Like, of course, right here with it, of what I'm looking at, we have.
I had the
Okay,
wrong book.
I was close to it. Antichristos. Okay, yeah. So we have mentions of it right here, but I've gone into that elsewhere, and that's not part of this, right? Really, but 1 John 3, 8, and 10. So 10 is that loves his brother in the light abides, and cause offense is not. Wait. Okay. Okay, I don't. Is there a different version? Oh, am I not even reading the right chapter? Okay. I'm not reading the right chapter. That's why it's okay. 3, 8. He that practices the sin of the devil is, because from the beginning the devil sins, for this was manifested the Son of God, that he might undo the works of the devil. Well, if people make a choice, it just doesn't really make sense for somebody else to make that choice for them. And why would a God have a son, instead of giving people opportunity, just here's the ability to undo things for yourself? Because that's usually the biblical narrative until you get to what they call the New Testament, and you get past what Jesus said. Because it's important to notice that the Bible doesn't really make Jesus out to be whatever. But one of the things, I'm not sure that are Marktanai, Marktion. So that's the word we have for sin. And what's the specific there? But those truly of the devil, to diabolou, probably wouldn't consider it a mistake, what they're doing. So there's that. And verse 10, in this manifest are the children of God and the children of the devil. Anyone that is not practice in righteousness is not of God, and he that loves not his brother his. Okay. So, yeah. So we see from that passage alone that the thing about being a child of God isn't literal. It's what choice you made, and then there's that side. Okay, are you this? Or are you that? Have you directed your emotions this way or that way? Now, some of the passages about how you're supposed to feel about things, that is actually, you don't give yourself a reason. Because your feelings are, because your emotions and your feelings are not so controlled as giving yourself a reason. That takes a little bit more to do to yourself, but as much as physical deeds matter more than words and all that. So 1 Peter 5, 8. Okay, 5, 8. Be sober, watch, because the adversary, your devil, as a lion roaring, goes about seeking whom he may swallow up. And remember that image of Ahriman and Mithra, for example, as a lion, with this entwined with a snake. But then again, Mithraism is where you get Christianity. Mithraism is the type of religion Christianity is. So it's basically saying the old image of the type of faith we are, but just like it says elsewhere, oh, these stories full of meaning and purpose, they're really true this time in Jesus. So that's what they're trying to tell you, is like, oh, it was the devil before. Anything about this sort of doctrine before was the devil, but now the past generation, it's something different.
Well,
which it doesn't really dawn on you until you're not,
Yeah.
until you're not, when you're not Christian anymore, then you're like, oh, how did I not get this one? But we're we're so trained.
Ooh,
And
right.
then see, when we realize it's a myth, not only do we understand new dimensions of these things too.
Yeah.
And we got James 4:7. Subject yourselves therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. And we also see this implication, that this is why some people talk about the devil like Diabolos is a being of consent, because its power over you is only as far as you give consent, for one. Okay, the order's kind of mixed up here, but I thought of different stuff as I was going along. So we got Hebrews 2:4, bearing witness with them, God by signs, both in wonders and various acts of power and of the Spirit, holy distributions according to his will. So we have that word agiu. So agios is a word that you hear me using a lot, so that points out that.
That was in James 4:7.
No, Hebrews 2. Oh, wait, that's not right. Hebrews 2:14. That's what I meant to read. Since therefore the children have partaken of flesh and blood, also he in like manner took part in the same, that through death he might annul him who might have sins of death, and that is the devil. So the death current, but the death current, see, most mythology, a monotheist, Christianity is a bit dualist. Even if you try to pretend that the Trinity is like one God, which doesn't make any sense. How do you have a triple deity and only one deity? You can say Godhead, but monotheism, it's not monotheism. But one of the things that they did is they made, the flesh and the blood, which of course you can say is represented by the symbol. Those are the flesh and the blood. Well, again, most mythologies would have it as the same. Like when we went over the green verses, they weren't saying to cast yourself off from the flesh and the blood and not live that existence for what it is. But then, as we saw in the verse that I read that I didn't mean to read,
that was okay.
is that you got these thoughts and you bear the words and you have actions, but the actions need to be imbibed with the Spirit, to be whole. And some of that's, so you got the flesh and the blood and the Spirit is the 333 in the thing there. And of course, one thing that sets the temple blood apart is this, what my brother calls satanic alienism. Because I showed him this video online where they were playing the X-Files theme song with some extra sounds and one of those blood splashed looking graphics with a drill Sergeant Gray character. And yeah. And I thought because X-Files was even more of his thing than so 2 Timothy 3:3. Okay, is this one of those ones that's not without natural affection, implacable, slanderers, incontinent, savage, not lovers of good. Well, the one passage that I didn't mean to read, something about it was something along the lines of not lovers of one's brothers, and Athila gathoi. But again, the world is savage. The world isn't always controlled. There's sometimes, diaboloi is the word we hear for slanderers. So people making accusations. Now, but you don't make accusations just to make accusations. And you let go when you let go, and you be a beast when you need to be a beast. So again, the separating of the dark and stuff like it's always the enemy is, that creates some problems. And verse 26 of 2, and they may awake up out of the devil's snare, having been taken by him for his will. And well, if people make the choice, then they incarnate the will. Thelhama would have the value of 93. So in reference to Aleister Crowley, once you get into Aleister Crowley or you get into Kabbalah or something, some of these words and number values and stuff, whenever they appear, they have a different effect if you've had some degree of training. Now, I don't have to, per se, make it my religion or my lifestyle or something like some people would in order to break through and get that training effect. In 1 Timothy, we have chapter 3, verse 7, 6, and 11. So 6, not a novice, lest being puffed up into the crime they may fall of the devil. Well, that's why it's important to be practiced. People's like, oh, well, if I just avoid the issue, it's like you have to be practiced in an issue. And verse 6, that was verse 6. No, I mean verse 7. But it behoves him also a testimony good to have from those without, lest unto reproach he may fall, and the snare of the devil. Wait. So it's important to get the input of others, but that shouldn't be it in itself. So if it is it in itself that you're just waiting for the approval or sanction or clarification of others, now you can get their advice, but you should still consider for yourself, regardless of the level of authority outside yourself.
Right.
And 11, women in like manner, grave, not slanderers, sober, faithful in all things. And I mean, there are some slight differences between men and women, but in general, our ethics are
Right.
of the same things. Okay, so we have Titus 2:3. I'm not sure. I think we didn't go into that one. And so 2:3, aged in like manner in deportment as becomes sacred ones, not slanderers, not to wine, much enslaved, teachers of what is right. Now, we can take this away from the term slanderers and just accusations. Like the idea of not mentioning what's wrong just for the sake of not mentioning what's wrong. It's that sort of mythology, but it's not made as so clear in English because the word slander, rather than just don't go around making accusations for themselves, and then you won't have to worry so much about that sort of thing. And before I go further, let me remind that in the past, I have used tarragon and gardenia. Tarragon is a symbol of blood, and gardenia is a symbol of flesh. And gardenia is one of those ones you can't have too much of. But if you were really consuming flesh or certain sorts of flesh, that would be something that would not be too easy in itself to consume anyways. So that kind of fixes some of that. And I try in my seasonals, you notice that like when I do my the Goetia rituals, I would tend if I had some sort of bread product and a juice, that this would be the transubstantiation offering, you could say. And in my seasonals, I've done the same. May it become our blood, may it become our flesh, or something to that effect has been something that I have been saying in different seasonals as time has gone by. And in the summer solstice one, I particularly try to find some. Now, I think I will be in the middle of a 9-day fast amidst this year's summer solstice ritual, and so in doing that, I won't be eating these things by day. I'll eat very lightly, and I'll do the ritual, and I guess I will feel it more when I consume the stuff at the end, because I don't know whether this will take an hour. It could take an hour. It could take a couple hours for all I know. So some of it's like the experience of the ritual, you know?
Right.
Yeah, you ever go into that? It's like, okay, the ritual itself only takes like 15 minutes or a half hour or something, and then it ends up, there ends up being a couple extra hours there, and it's like you don't know how much time went by, but you're seeing stuff and you're interacting with stuff, and you just don't,
Right. You don't keep up with the time or even think about it.
And that's part of the reason why, even if I had memorized as much material to use in rituals as I had music, lyrics and stuff, I wouldn't be the best person, because I don't know how much, when I really get into it, I don't know how much time I take and how fast I'm going or how slow I'm going. I've had complaints about both. I've had like, why you make this part like 6 minutes, man? It's I could have said in half a minute. It's like, or a minute or something, most people or something. But it's like, yeah, well,
That's how it happens.
and honestly, part of it is like, it's like I was the first one there, and it's like if you were hanging out in the in the area to take off your shoes, what difference does it make if
Right.
But so if Ephesians 6:11, see in how large to you letters I wrote with my own hand. Oh, no, that's 6 with Galatians. I'm messing up today, Big. Okay, put on the panoply of God to be able for you to stand against the artifices of the devil. So spiritual warfare is of the different types. Like one of the reasons why the rituals and all this stuff get so complex sometimes in mainstream religion is because the demonic side has done all that stuff too. It's used the different plants and various symbols and different types of ritual actions. And so for people to psychologically choose a side, they employ these things on the different things. And that's one of the things where Protestantism has fallen in terms of its ability to control ethics and consciousness and stuff like this, because they've tried to drop a lot of stuff. Yet they keep the Sabbath of the Catholics rather than the Bible. They tend to keep virtually all of them do. And they virtually always keep this, that, or the other of the holidays or the laws of their land. And when they don't have to make the ways of their nation, that thing. But if you understand the methods of it, that's as much of anything as anything. That's why now Liber 333 does go into more, and some of it's not so explained as one would like. That's why I have people said, why don't you explain it more? It's like, maybe I will, but people don't know the references. It's like what does this name mean? They don't know what pathway, what this sort of, some of the pathways and stuff like this mentioned. So it's important to take apart the story sometimes, but it's not so much a path about here's all these elaborate rules and stories and philosophy. Now, if you want to go off and do your thing, whatever, but that has not been so much the thing. So 420, but you know what I'm trying to say. The method and the way of the dialectic isn't so explicit as the forms. It's
Yes.
So
Well,
427. Neither give place to the devil. Okay. Well, you know that thing. They tried to. And again, we're using the word diabolos here. You know that thing they used to say when people got baptized? You were supposed to renounce the devil and all his works.
oh yeah.
And one of the things too is like, as far more explicitly in Islam or some other path is you got this idea that as far as you actually have remembrance. So when you let things be worthless,
Yeah.
and that doesn't mean you have to either be a monk or not. But when you have things that don't have value, then things creep in from this, perhaps the side that you don't want creeped in.
Yeah.
Acts 13:10 said, "O full of all guile and all the craft, son of the devil, enemy of all righteousness, wilt thou not cease perverting the ways of the Lord straight?" So Paul's trying to control somebody with that. But Barabbas is one of the characters that made its way into the Jesus character. So earlier in this chapter, we're seeing mention of Barabbas. And it's like, well, see, so this is about competing with other paths. And remember what I said in the Predator 7 program, my comment on that. A lot of what happens is people are, they think they have to be something because they're not Christian. This type of talk is going to produce, as much as anything else, this idea, oh, you're not a Christian like us, so therefore here are these other things I'm just automatically going to assume you are part of. Like I told you, somebody commenting on my channel, it was clear I wasn't a Christian, so automatically I must be into all these horrible things.
Ridiculous.
Some of which it's like Nargargo's flawed. I agree with him. It's like, first of all, some people will do things for the devil, yeah, but more people will actually strike out against some people who do those things with that consciousness too. So, don't put that there.
Right.
Acts 10:38. Jesus, who was from Nazareth, we have the word ihsun. How anointed him God with the Spirit, holy and with power, went through doing good and healing unto all that were being oppressed by the devil, because God was with him. Okay, so they got the initiation one way, but what do you think is implied there? It's implied, well, it's explicit. It's implied that God and Jesus aren't the same, and the Holy Spirit isn't the same as that either, and also that there's a power. And so Jesus is part of a power that he's passing on. So he's not the power itself. So therefore, Jesus isn't God. And so we get into John 13:2. Remember that John was the first of the canonical gospels to be written, and it was in 19 chapters, by the way. And it was originally written about Bacchus. They made a few differences to reach unto that point. And 13:2, and the supper taking place, the devil already having put into the heart of Judas, Simon Iscariot, that he should deliver him up. And again, just because something, it's like the TV. Something comes on the TV and it comes into your mind. But do you have to act out everything you have on the TV? No.
No. Absolutely not.
So regardless of any of these things, whatever side you take, us human beings, we have choice. And okay. Oh, 8. I'm looking somewhere else. 844. Ye of the father, the devil are, and the lust of your father ye desire to do. He a murderer was from the beginning, and in the truth not as stood, because there is not truth in him. Wherever he may speak falsehood, from his own he speaks, for a liar he is, and the father of it. And one of the things we have in that is there's a different sense of a lie when we turn to what we see written in Persia. So the lie and the truth, as translated in English, aren't quite the same sense. So if you tell the truth with a different motive, that's put across there. But the importance that I think a person should learn from that is you get from your influence, what's coming through your influence. That people nowadays are like, oh, well, I didn't personally do the crime. No, if you're involving yourself towards what is going to factor into stuff, you're responsible. And that's one of the keys too, is nowadays you can, it's like, what's probably coming, probably even this year. There's so many people out there. It's like, well, they're not pulling the trigger. It's like, yeah, but they're part of provoking it to happen. They're part of saying it's necessary. Oh, global climate change or something like that. So we need to poison the entire world. It's like, what?
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
670. Answered them, Jesus not, I you, the 12 did choose, and of you one a devil is. And let that be a lesson for all religious organizations, right?
Right.
Is that there's something going on out there. Luke 8:12. And I know I speak much, but think of whatever comment you have with these.
I found my Tanakh. That H on the end of it.
Yeah, it's
not
2 letters.
So that's
at the end, but
I was mispronouncing it.
It's from the word ketubim. So it's ketubim is books. Now in Yiddish or something, they probably say that with a V or something, but it's a B sound. It's supposed to be a B sound.
Wow.
And the N is Nebiim, so prophets, and Torah is of course the law. And Luke 8:12. And those, by the way, are those who hear, then comes the devil and takes away the word from their hearts, lest, having believed, they should be saved. So knowing in your heart, or having the emotional attachment, that's not enough. So these people that talk about their feelings, well, okay, that's important enough, but that's not the whole story. And 6:13. And when it became day, he called to him and his disciples, and chose out of them 12 also apostles he named. So again, the same thing mentioned previously about, here's this group of people, but one of them's not really one of you.
Right.
4:6. And said to him, the devil, to thee I will give this authority, all and their glory, for to me it has been delivered, and to whomsoever I wish I give it. 4, 5. And leading up him, the devil, to a mountain high, showed him all the kingdoms of the habitable world in a mountain of time. So leading, so Satan's going around showing Jesus things according to this. It's not that he was picked up, but still,
Right.
again, Jesus can't be God because he's like, you know, he would have been able to know things. The devil didn't need to show him anything.
Right. Good
And
point.
verse 3, and said to him the devil, if son thou art of God, speak to this stone that it becomes bread. And verse 2 of that, the days 40 being tempted by the devil, and he ate nothing in those days, and being ended, they afterwards hungered. You know, that's one of the models, right? 40 days. In the Tablighi Jamaat thing, there's this ideal of going on 40 days. If you can get somebody to go for 40 days and decide, okay, unless I'm traveling or some other circumstance beyond control, you know, all the acts of worship are in a communal, you know, 5 times a day. They're in a communal place of worship. They're they're tending to sleep there, so they're following the rules of that. So they're incubating, and it's supposed to create some sort of change over that time. And also the idea is just because somebody says you have some sort of authority, that doesn't mean that one has that authority. So
Right.
we don't have time in this meeting to go into Matthew 4, 1, 4, 5, 4, 8, 4, 11, 13, 39, 25, 41. Because this is going to close here, but feel free to share any concluding thoughts.
When you mentioned the 5 spiritual acts per day, that kind of called something out to me. So I appreciate that. I've got I got a very nice thing out of that, a very nice idea of what how I can improve my daily spiritual acts. Yeah.
Well, I one thing is I looked with those 4 sets. I'm trying to find a 5th one of something, you know, extra I can do when I have, oh, it's this time of day and I have half an hour or 10 minutes or 5 or whatever it takes to do that. The late afternoon one is the one that's the longest. But
I really love the morning, but yeah.
Yeah,
Evening.
the morning one is the one that's really been my standard, like months out of a time. It just depends on what others have for me and all that sort of stuff, what I got to do, or how much sleep I got, whatnot. But 2541 is like something's prepared. But see, those on the left. So those on the left, and so it's not the left-hand path. Those on the left is something different. And 13, I'm not sure how